Welcome to the Blue Duck Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the Week 9 preview podcast for the NFL games this week, where we preview all the upcoming games for Week 9. I'm your host, Ben, and with me, as always, is Maddie Nice. If this is your first time listening, be sure to follow. If this is your first time watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when we post new videos. We post 2 podcasts a week, and we upload videos to YouTube every single day during the fantasy football season. We go into player values, trade targets, waiver ads, and a lot more. But let's get to previewing Week 9. Matt, got any news for us today?
Davante Adams practiced today. That's big news for that
big
team.
News.
They've been doing really well anyway, but getting back a top 5 receiver, it's going to make that offense that's been doing really well lately that much better.
Yeah, and my fantasy teams without him have been doing really well too, so it's a nice boost.
Pat Mahomes, a little bit more done in practice today.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to play.
I hope not.
You hope not? You hope not.
No, I'd rather save him for the stretch. I'd rather him be good for missing a week and be good for the rainy games than going back out there and getting hurt again.
This is true.
The only league I have him in is a 2-quarterback league, but...
Yeah, the smart play is to keep him out until he's 100%.
Yeah, nobody in that division is a threat to them. They have the division locked up.
Yeah.
The bye is maybe going to go by them. They're not going to get the Patriots. I don't know who the second best team in the AFC is.
It's probably them.
It's probably the Ravens.
Yeah, they're okay too.
Yeah, but they beat the Ravens, so they have that tiebreaker. Anything else?
That is all.
All right, let's get right to the games. The Thursday nighter, the 49ers go to Arizona. Matt, what is your feeling about the 49ers?
They will likely be running the ball a lot with Tevin Coleman. Matt Braid is questionable for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. George Kittle's an obvious start because we all know how bad that Cardinals tight end defense is.
Worse in the league.
Correct. And Jimmy Garoppolo is borderline start for me.
Really that high, eh? Well, you know I love running backs on Thursday, so Tevin Coleman is an obvious start for me. It's a weak secondary too, so Sanders and possibly even Debo in a deeper league can be flexed. You know, I'm not excited about starting any of them. I need to see more from Sanders before I'm confident plug him into my lineup. But yeah, I didn't know Breda was going to be questionable, or else he would be pretty much an obvious start for me if he does play. If he doesn't play, Mostert would be the player who could possibly be flexed in this scenario just because there's net running backs, and he's probably pretty fresh and ran really well against the Panthers in garbage time last week.
Yeah, all 3 backs there got dinged up, and they're all kind of coming in questionable except for Coleman.
As for the Cardinals, the obvious starts are nobody. Drake isn't a bad play here, but they're talking about him not getting all the carries. I have him top 35 running back, so he's not a start. But if you're in a pinch at running back, you have David Johnson and you had Chase Edmonds, you're now down to your third back. You don't have a choice. He's a decent play. Kirk and Fitz, not overly excited about either, but if I had to pick one, I'd definitely go with Christian Kirk. And Kyler Murray, borderline start. These are all just not plays that I'm interested in, but if you're forced into playing them, you're kind of forced into playing them.
Yeah, Kirk would be the most the starter, the player that I'd be most likely to start here. Even Kyler, I've got a little bit lower than Jimmy G this week. Just I like that 49ers defense. It's really tough to run anybody out against them, especially when you're not that great of an offense overall. I am going to take the Niners in this game.
I will also take the Niners. Next game on the docket, Texans Jaguars. Second game of the season for these two teams. Obvious starts for the Texans are Hopkins and Watson. The first game ended 16-13, yet everybody thinks it's going to be a high-scoring game. The running backs for Houston are flexible at best for me, with Hyde being ahead of Duke, even in PPR. Still not trusting either of the tight ends here. I'm not going to go with any of them. And Steele, as you've mentioned many times, is a boom or bust play. So start him at your own risk. If you need a lot of points, need a miracle to win maybe, plug him in. If you're going to be favored by a lot and you have a better option or a safer option, use them.
Yeah, that's the way to approach it with Kenny Stills. This game is in London. Anything can happen there. But I agree with Ben. You're starting Watson and Hopkins. I've got Carlos Hyde as a startable running back here in standard formats. I'm not really looking at Duke this week.
What about Kiki Kuti? Anything can happen in London, or is he just in the doghouse now?
Anything can happen in London, but Kiki Kuti can't be a startable player in London.
All right.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. Jaguars, we are going to start Leonard Fournette and DJ Shark.
What about D.D. Westbrook if he's healthy?
If he's healthy, sure, but didn't really seem like he was going to play.
Yeah, I have D.D. Westbrook being about as good as Kenny Stills in my rankings. I have Chris Conley being worse than that. And there's a lot of love for Minshew this week. I saw him at 9 on consensus rankings, and I don't know where that's coming from. To me, he's only startable in 2 quarterback leagues.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw that too, and I didn't get it. He just hasn't shown it, and the Texans' defense is not that bad.
No, he's been good. Like Derek Carr's big performance against them, I guess, is what's doing that. Recency bias.
In a dome, better quarterback, though.
Do not start Gardner Minshew ahead of better quarterbacks. Check out our rankings, BlueDuckFantasy.com. Your pick to win?
I am going to take the Texans here.
That makes 2 of us. Moving on to the Bears at the Eagles. Obvious start for me for the Bears is Allen Robinson against this horrible secondary. My ballsy start of the week will be Mitch Trubisky. Monty got it going last week, but now it's Trubisky's turn. Taylor Gabriel's missed some time this year. Anthony Miller is just starting to get back into this offense. So this week is the week that Trubisky goes off. Please, my DFS lineup needs this. Cohen and Monty are only flexible this week. This is a good run D in Philadelphia, so I'm not excited about them. We talked about trading Montgomery. We also talked about buying him for the playoffs. So it could be one where you trade him away this week and then try to get him back next week before we trade deadline. I'm actually okay with Anthony Miller in 3 wide receiver sets this week. I'm all in on the Bears getting it going this week in the passing game.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is the obvious start here. I actually have Miller in my DFS right now, too.
I don't. I have Robinson, so we're good.
Perfect, because Miller was like 3,700. The running backs, it's just tough to start somebody like that against Philly D. I would be more inclined to start Cohen obviously in PPR. But Montgomery, I've got him as a flexible play. That's about it. I just can't trust it. Even though we saw a little bit last week, that run defense is too good, and we don't need to talk about Trey Burton. Eagles, kind of the same situation, playing a really good D. I can start Alshon. I barely start these running backs. I've got Howard just inside the starter range. Can't really trust Miles Sanders. It sounds like he's going to be available to play, though. And Zach Ertz is a must start. Carson Wentz is borderline here to this week.
Obvious starts for me are no one. I don't think Ertz is an obvious start in this one. I do have him in my DFS lineup because I think he's going to break out. But I don't think if you somehow picked up Darren Waller or something like that and you have a better option, he's down to like 6-7 in our rankings. So for tight ends, there aren't that many obvious starts at tight end, and he's fallen out of that category for me. As you mentioned, you can start most of the guys on this team. Wentz, Alshon, Howard's okay. But the player that I'm actually highest on is Deshaun Jackson, if he plays. Mm-hmm. I think if he comes back, he's someone who can beat this Bears defense. There's going to be attention on Alshon Jeffrey, and he is going to be able to open this up. And he's a boomer bust play always. And I have him higher than Alshon Jeffrey this week just because I think he'll get the inferior corner. He'll get the better matchup. I don't want to start Sanders, even if he's healthy. The touches last week, I mean, he's not going to do that every week on 6 touches. And Dallas Goedert, for me, is more of a plug-and-play. If your tight end is on bye, then an actual tight end you can start every week. Matt, your pick to win this game?
I'm going to take the Eagles here.
I will take Mitch Trubisky blowing up the Eagles defense and the Bears. Bears win.
Yikes.
Moving on to the next game, we have the Colts at Steelers. Matt, your thoughts on the Colts? Obvious starts?
T.Y. Hilton, Jacoby Brissett's getting into the conversation of one quarterback league starters. More to borderline, I guess. Marlon Mack is an obvious start.
There we go.
You don't like Marlon Mack?
No, I was waiting for you to say him because I have him as an obvious start, and you went T.Y., then you went to Brissett, so you confused me.
And the tight ends aren't obvious starts just because they're going to split too much. And I can't start any of these other wide receivers this week.
This should be a decent matchup, a better matchup than most. You saw what the Dolphins were able to do against the Steelers. So I'm not taking Pascal and, putting him on my bench and saying you're not moving. If Pascal is like coming up your lineup and you need to play somebody, I'm okay with playing him, but he's not somebody I'm looking to plug into my lineup. As you said, same with the tight ends. If I'm forced to play them, I'll play them. If not, I don't want to. So you want to check out our tight end rankings to see who Matt and I would rather start over Eric Ebron. That's BlueDuckFantasy.com. Brissett, as you said, is a borderline start this week, and the matchup isn't that bad because of what the Steelers gave up to the Dolphins last week. As for the Steelers, obvious start, Juju. That's it. James Conner's likely out. So is Benny Snell. Makes Jalen Samuels a top 20 running back for me this week, but you could have better ones on your team. Deontay Johnson, to me, is now the number 2 wide receiver here, and it's not close. He's somebody that I would look to target in a Dynasty League. Didn't have much footage to watch of him before the draft or before preseason, but he looked pretty good in preseason to my eyes. Really makes good adjustments to get to the ball. And I don't think Mason Rudolph can support 2 wide receivers every week right now, but over time that might change, and both Juju and Deontay will be able to do well. That is, unless they get to play the Vikings every week. And Vance, on the other hand, is someone I find starting. Touchdowns are coming for him.
Yeah, it's too bad Connor's out, obviously. Samuels is startable for me, and as a second running back, it looks like you've got him there as well.
Yep.
Mason Rudolph for not starting outside of 2 quarterback leagues.
And even then.
Juju's good. Deontay Johnson is kind of similar to Kenny Stills, boomer bust. So start him at your own risk, kind of. If you're projected to win by a lot, start your safer option. If you need a boom play, start Deontay Johnson.
Your pick to win?
I'm going to go with... I'm going to take Indy.
I will also take Indy. Moving on to Minnesota at Kansas City. Might be a pretty good game here. Obvious starts for the Vikings. Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, and just because I think it's a great matchup, Kirk Cousins for me. I'm avoiding the tight ends until one emerges, which likely won't happen this season. Keep stashing Matheson with no H.
Yeah, there's not much more to add to that. Those are guys you're starting. Chiefs, don't anticipate Mahomes starting, but you're still going to start your Kelsey, your Hill. Running back situation is getting tougher every week. LaShawn McCoy continues to fumble. I still have him as a startable running back, but he's slowly coming down the line there. I wouldn't trust any of the other wide receivers. Sammy Watkins, he can be a flexible play for me, like a high flex scenario. But the rest of the wide receivers, I'm not, like Hardman and Robinson, I'm not playing.
High flex for Watkins? What's your ranking on Sammy Watkins?
28.
Okay. I have him 35. I was just making sure you weren't saying high flex in 3 wide receiver sets, because to me he's only a start in 3 wide receiver sets, because I have him as a top 35 wide receiver. As you said, Kelsey and Hill, obvious starts. Hardman, can't trust. 2 targets. No. With this quarterback, you can't be banking on those guys. Even Watkins to me is tough. I have Damian Williams ahead of McCoy this week. Matt, tell me why I'm wrong.
Until we see it, it's hard to rank them. The gap has narrowed quite a bit, though, for me. I've got them, 11 spots apart in standard. It's tough. It could very easily go the other way because Andrew Reid's sick of the fumbles. But McCoy's just got so much more talent. I just can't ignore that right now. Either
way, without Mahomes there, none of them are great plays. Your pick to win this one?
I'm going to take the Chiefs. They looked okay last week.
Seems like a biased pick. I'll take the Vikings. Moving on to the Jets at the Dolphins in what should be an amazing game. The obvious starts for the Jets are the Ghostbusters. Le'Veon Bell. I do love Robbie Anderson this week, though, but it's a huge boomer bust play. The thing is, the boom is just a whole lot bigger than the Kenny Stills or any of those booms. Crowder in PPR is top 40 for me, but that's about it. I still don't love this. I haven't seen it. Demaryius Thomas is starting to get some targets. That week 1 that we saw from Crowder, we haven't seen anything close to yet, so he's dropping for me. And now the tight end situation is getting just gross with Herndon still not playing, maybe not playing this week, and Ryan Griffin, who had his time in Houston and didn't do anything and was one of our voids this week on our waiver targets, should not be started. Don't start any of them. Sam Darnold is an interesting start in this game because of the matchup. It could be a great game, but I would actually rather start Mitch Trubisky or Gardner Minshew.
Okay, I don't have him quite that low, but yeah, he's number 16 for me, so I'm not starting him in single quarterback formats either. I hear what you're saying in terms of Robbie, but he's put up a lot of zeros for everyone as well. So he's more of a 3 wide receiver flex for me. And Le'Veon, this is going to be his best matchup he's going to get. He's got to do it this week.
Has to.
If he doesn't do it this week, he's not going to do it at all. I was actually really surprised his trade value was still quite high, just jumping to trade values there for a second. And Herndon, yeah, like you said, with Ryan Griffin, you can't really trust that. I'm not starting the other wide receivers yet. Mark Walton is...
Who are the obvious starts?
Nobody.
Oh, you nailed those. Good job. Couldn't agree more.
Mark Walton is flexible. That's about it.
That's what I have here, and I'm not willing to trust any of the wide receivers or anyone else on this team. You want to make a pick?
I am going to take the Jets.
That makes 2 of us. Titans at Panthers. Obvious starts for the Titans are Derrick Henry. And that's it. I have Corey Davis in the top 25 wide receiver this week, even after he didn't do much last week. Still believe if Delaney Walker is out, I would start Jonnu Smith over Eric Ebron. But give me Tannehill ahead of Sam Darnold as well.
Okay. I've got Jonnu as a start if Delaney Walker is out as well. Tannehill is not a startable option for me this week. And Corey Davis is flexible. That's about it. You need to see him do it more often. And Derrick Henry is, of course, a startable player. For the Carolina Panthers, easy start is McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Maybe
I
Wilson.
don't think DJ Moore is an obvious start. I have him in the top 35, so he's not somebody that I'm interested in starting in 2 wide receiver sets. He can be started in 3 wide receiver sets, but even then I'd be looking to have a better player. This is a tougher D with the Titans, so I'd fade the wide receivers if I have better options. Greg Olsen should be around the top 10 tight ends this week. Best of luck to Kyle Allen in his last NFL start for now. I don't see anyone starting him in fantasy except for me if Mahomes can't go in my 2 quarterback league. Your pick to win the Panthers-Titans game.
I'll take Carolina at home in Kyle Allen's last start.
I will take the Titans, tough D, beating the Panthers on the road. Moving on to Washington at Buffalo. Matt, who are your obvious starts for Washington?
I have got no obvious starts for Washington this week. You can start McLaurin in. For me, he's a 3 wide receiver option this week. Adrian Peterson, he is getting closer to startable, but not an obvious start. He's more a flex play as well in standard formats. And I'm not starting whoever's starting a quarterback in this game.
I have both Peterson and McLaurin as high flexes for me this week in 2 wide receiver, 2 running back leagues. And it's going to be a hard pass on everyone else. As for the Bills, no obvious starts for them either. Josh Allen may have the game we expected him to have last week. And Singletary outsnapped Gore last week, but the carries were still hugely in Gore's favor. I've actually held on to Gore in our Yahoo League just in case. But let's get on to Matt's least favorite player, John Brown. Top 20 for me this week, even after he let you down in DFS this week, or last week. How far did you drop him because of that sting?
I have him still as a startable play this week. I've got him in PPR as 25. So that is borderline startable in the 2 wide receivers. It's flexible for sure. I'm okay with starting Frank Gore in the standard format here. PPR, you're going to lean a little bit more towards Singletary, but I would actually go with Gore in both of those formats here, apparently.
All right. Yeah, my rankings there on those 2 players. I'm sure I'm higher on Singletary this
PPR,
week.
yes, you are. You got 19 for Singletary and 35 for Gore.
Yeah, so Singletary is definitely a startable asset this week for me in PPR. Matt, your pick to win the Buffalo-Washington matchup.
I will take Buffalo.
I will take the Bills as well. Moving on to the Lions at the Raiders. Obvious start for the Lions, Kenny Golladay, and also Stafford because of this matchup. He's a really high-ranked quarterback this week. A huge pass for me on Tra Carson and Ty Johnson. Is that his name? Trey. I'm passing on the running backs. All right, listen, people. The Lions have a historically bad running team. The Barry Sanders curse continues to live on. Carry-on was spotty at best this year. These guys are nowhere near this talent. They're splitting. Amendola is basically the third down back at this point. Avoid the Lions running backs if you can. I have both other Lions wide receivers surprisingly higher, though, because this is now a pass-first team, and it's like running is like the last option they want to do. Top 25 for Marvin Jones for me in PPR this week, and he's not even a good PPR player, so he doesn't have that PPR-ness that we like to talk about. Someone who does have a lot of PPR-ness is Danny Amendola. He's in the top 40 for me this week in PPR. And Hawk, only if you don't have someone who's at the Eric Ebron level or better.
Yeah, the Lions there, I'm avoiding those running backs as well. Galladay's must start. Stafford is a very good start. I've got Marvin Jones more towards the flexible range, but he's high flex. And Hawk actually moved down just because he hasn't done it since week 1. For Oakland, again, there's a good starters here. Waller, Jacobs, Tyrell Williams is a good start. And even Derek Carr is an okay start for me this week.
Obvious starts are, as we always say, the running back, the wide receiver, the tight end. Derek Carr is actually an okay start in one quarterback leads for me, but I'm not buying the strong 2 games he's had, which is soon to be 3 strong games. So I'm not going to be running out to grab him and thinking, oh, the Raiders have turned the corner. Derek Carr is the elite quarterback we thought he was going to be 2 years ago. He's not, all right? This is just matchup-based. I mean, Andy Dalton's done things like this in the past. You're not excited about Andy Dalton ever, and he's Andy Dalton, well, unfortunately. Bad news for him. But anyways, I'm just saying don't buy the Derek Carr great games. Don't start thinking you can start him going forward. You can't. This game, you can. Matt, your pick to win here.
I'm going to take the Raiders at home.
Yeah, I'll take the Raiders. They've been playing really well, and I think the Lions have tried to pass too much. Moving on, we have the Buccaneers at the Seahawks in what should be one of the higher scoring games of the week. Matt, your obvious starts for the Bucs are?
The 2 wide receivers here, Godwin and Evans. And that is all for obvious starts. Jameis is a good play as well for quarterback, though, but not obvious. Can't start the running backs or the tight ends.
Yeah, like I said, I see this game being one of the higher scoring ones of the week. I am starting Winston over Rivers in the league, Yahoo, and that's not really close for me. Bad matchup for Rivers against Green Bay. We'll talk about that in a bit. It's not a bad week to flex one of these running backs in a standard league. The Seahawks aren't the best defense. There's going to be a lot of points put up, a lot of possessions, a lot of plays. Of course, if you have better options, then don't use them. I haven't liked these guys all season, and I have Ronald Jones ahead of Peyton Barber, but it's usually pretty close. Obviously, our full rankings can be found on blueduckfantasy.com. I actually have O.J. Howard in the top 10 right now, but apparently he might not play, so that could change. Again, you want to bookmark that blueduckfantasy.com on the rankings page so you can get back to it easy. I would not have Cameron Brate in the top 10 if O.J. Howard is out. I would rather start T.J. Hawkinson. As for the Seahawks, obvious starts in this one are Russell Wilson, Chris Carson. Even though it's a bit of a bad matchup, the Bucs D is pretty good when it comes to run stopping, but you still can't bench your studs against them. And Tyler Lockett he's an obvious start as well. I also actually really like DK Metcalf this week, as I have Russell Wilson as my number 1 quarterback in fantasy. I actually have DK as a borderline top 35 wide receiver. None of it is based on what he did last week. It's simply based on the matchup and the fact that the Tampa Bay secondary can give up some big games. Seattle should have traded Penny while his value is still high. They're not going to use him, so get rid of him. And there's no tight end in Seattle until at least 2020, right? At best.
Correct. Yeah, Wilson's an obvious start. Pains me to say Lockett is still a startable player. Chris Carson is a good player. DK Metcalf is flexible. He was covered by some of the Patriots defenders last week, I think. And so that's what I got for Seattle this week. And I'm going to take the Seahawks at home.
I'll take my Bucs on the road.
Sounds like a biased pick.
It is. Browns at Broncos. Obvious starts for the Browns are Nick Chubb. And that's it. OBJ and Landry are not obvious starts anymore, especially with this tough secondary the Broncos have. If you want a contrarian play in DFS, then OBJ is the play. And there are a lot of players that you could have on your team that you should start ahead of him. I have Robbie Anderson in standard scoring ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. this week. I have DJ Chark against Houston in London in either format ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. this week. And Cortland Sutton would have been ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. this week if Joe Flacco was healthy. I just can't trust the uncertainty with this quarterback who couldn't make the Rams roster, had a Sean Mannion. So the quarterback change got me off of that.
Yeah, I have DJ Chark actually ahead of Odell as well. So I don't have either wide receivers as a very... Again, they're still startable plays for me, but they're not obvious starts. Landry, I've got 24, so that barely makes him startable. And Baker, we would not start in this game here. For the Broncos, this is going to be a little bit tougher just because of the quarterback change here. I would still be okay running out Lindsey, Sutton.
Yeah, I'm not sitting Sutton. He's still in the top 20 for me. Noah Fant is behind TJ Hawkinson for me, at least until I see him do it. If you've been streaming tight ends this year, he's actually a good candidate. And he's someone who could really up his value over the last half of the season here. It's a rookie, so there's a lot of development there. And with Emmanuel Sanders being shipped out, he's definitely going to see more targets, so he could be somebody who really starts to elevate his game if you've been struggling with the tight end and haven't found a concrete ones. Both the running backs are startable, but don't care for them. I still have Lindsey about 10 spots higher, but both are inside the top 30 here. And if you're starting Brandon Allen, I hope I'm playing you.
Yeah.
Your pick to win this one, Browns or Broncos?
I'm going to take Cleveland to sort of turn it around and get a win.
Same here. I like them in this matchup. I don't know why. Just going with the gut. Packers at Chargers. Obvious starts for the Packers are Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, if he's finally healthy, and Aaron Jones, who's been playing lights out. Jamal Williams is actually inside the top 25 for me in PPR this week. So he's definitely a startable player, especially against this Chargers defense, which I absolutely think is terrible against running backs. I would rather start Noah Fant than Jimmy Graham, though. And I've dropped these wide receivers all the way down this week, not because of the matchup, but because Rodgers seems to spread it around so much. I just can't bank on any one of them having a good game.
Except for Adams.
Of course.
Yeah, the other wide receivers are kind of flexible. MVS is the top of that bunch there. I'm okay with Jimmy Graham. He's in my top 12. You mentioned the rest. Jamal Williams is not quite as high for me as he is for you, but he is still in that lower flexible range. For LA, I almost called them San Diego. Good matchup there for the man in the back. That run defense has not been very good this year. Melvin Gordon. Eckler is still okay because I think they're going to have to start passing towards third quarter, fourth quarter here. Keenan Allen's a startable asset. Hunter Henry's a very startable player. And it's not even it's not a great matchup for Rivers, but I think they'll be passing a lot, so he's okay for me.
Yeah, the obvious start here to me above everybody else is Hunter Henry, your man. This is a tough pass matchup. The Packers defense has been good against the pass. It's tough to sit Keenan Allen, but maybe if you're ballsy, you just might do it. Make sure you follow on Instagram and on Twitter as we go doing some ballsy starts and sits this week. Both the links to the Instagram and Twitter are in the description, and the Twitter handles are literally on the screen right now. I actually love Melvin Gordon in this one. You know how I feel about the Packers run D. It's about as good as the Chargers run D, so I like the running backs in this one. He's ready to explode, too. It's been 3 to 4 games. He's up to speed now. He's ready to go. So the guy in the back is definitely in my DFS lineup. The article comes out on Friday, BlueDuckFantasy.com. You'll probably forget, so make sure you follow on Instagram and on Twitter. Matt, where are the Twitter handles?
Right there, right there.
Nope, there's nothing there right now.
Oh.
There's literally nothing there.
Sorry. I thought they were there.
No, they're in the description.
I'm seeing Twitter handles.
They're in the description. Oh, there they are right there as well. Matt, your pick to win this one. The Packers are the Packers.
I'll take the Packers if those are my only options.
I will take the Chargers.
All right.
Patriots at Ravens. Matt, who are your obvious starts for the Patriots?
obvious starts, we're going to go with Tom Brady. Good start for me. Michelle is borderline obvious. And Edelman is a good starter as well, but he's wouldn't be what I consider an obvious play, but he's definitely a startable asset for you.
You can think of a time that you would sit Edelman in this matchup?
No, but he's not like top 10 for me. I see that you guys have him top 10.
Oh, yeah. Obvious starter for me this week for sure. Even James White in PPR, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's going to be high-scoring, and even James White cracked my... Looking for him here on BlueDogFantasy.com. And, yes, he is in my top 25 running back, so he is a starter for me too.
In PPR?
In PPR, yes.
Yeah, Dorsett's the only other player that's even close, but still outside the top 40 for me. You'd have to be pretty desperate to throw Dorsett in there. As for the Ravens, the obvious starts for me in this one are no one. And that's because the Patriots take away the best option. What's the best option on the Ravens, Matt?
Lamar Jackson.
That's right. The Patriots are going to take away Lamar Jackson. They're going to be spying him all day, not giving him any room to run, and saying, go ahead, beat us with your arm, and Marquise Brown. And that's a reason why Lamar Jackson is not in my top 12 quarterbacks this week. And he will definitely be one of my ballsy sits of the week, if it's even considered ballsy at this point. I know most people probably aren't that high on him going up against the Patriots. But make sure you follow on Instagram for that, as our ballsy starts and sits is an Instagram exclusive. Can't even find it on Twitter or on the website, just on Instagram.
I would still start Lamar Jackson if I had him. He's still in my top 5, actually, for quarterbacks.
Guess you're not that ballsy.
I guess not. Maybe I'm ballsy to start him.
Pardon me?
Maybe I'm ballsy enough to start him. Mark Andrews is the only guy you kind of left out there. I would start him for sure. I don't see you having a better tight end option. Hollywood Brown is high flex. That's about it for me. Boomer
3 wide
bust.
receiver sets, high flex.
Yeah, boomer bust.
Yeah.
In this game, I'm going to take the Ravens to knock off the Pats.
I'll take the Patriots to stay undefeated as they shut down Lamar Jackson. Last game, the Monday Nighter, Cowboys at Giants. Obvious starts for the Cowboys are Dak, Zeke, Cooper. Gallup's actually close just because of how good of a matchup this is, but he just needs to show more before he can enter the obvious start discussion. I do have Gallup inside the top 25, so he is a startable player in 2 wide receiver sets, and I would rather start Jimmy Graham than Witten this week.
Okay. I would use Gallup more in a flexible situation than a starter. The rest of the guys were fine to me. Jason Witten, yeah, I'm starting Jimmy Graham over him as well. New York Giants, obvious starts. Saquon Barkley, he's the only obvious start here. I would start Sterling Shepard if he is going to be able to give it a go here.
Looks to be healthy.
Yeah, it looks like it. And Golden Tate is not even a bad option here as a flex. This should be a high-scoring game like you mentioned. And Evan Ingram, of course, is an obvious start.
Yeah, both should be around the top 30 when I'm saying that. The wide receivers, if Shepard can't play, bump Golden Tate up. But even if they both play, I think they're both top 30. Do not start Darius Slayton. This is it's not even a boomer bust play. It's it's a Hail Mary play. The guy had 2 catches last week. They were for touchdowns, and that was it. Ingram is my number 2 tight end this week. I just can't put him at number 1 since Kittle is facing that Cardinals D, so I got to go with him at number 1. Your pick to win the Monday Nighter, Dallas or the Giants?
I will take the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'll take the Cowboys as well coming off the bye. Matt, anything to add before we wrap up?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you're doing both.
That's it.